So Luke just came out, and I gotta say, this janitor's kit is clean. As one of the stickiest characters ever released, Luke is a bruiser's dream. Luke is a very versatile character who's able to stack a lot of defensive stats while still being able to output a lot of damage. He wears pretty much every stat effectively. And the funny thing is, due to the way that his W works, he actually holds flat amp really well too, despite being an auto attacker. So overall, there are lots of ways you can play this character. Now the first build I want to talk to you guys about is this Statue of Soteria Dobok version of Luke. Statue of Soteria is a weapon you're going to be seeing a lot on this character. It's now a 2-zone weapon with a high amount of attack power, some HP regen, attack speed, lifesteal, SP regen. This thing sort of just has everything you need. And now, after the most recent change to its recipe, losing that movement speed, it's now a 2-zone weapon, making it Luke's only available 2-zone weapon. But despite all that, this build will actually be finishing the weapon in 3 zones, and it goes in a lot of off-meta areas for Luke. These are areas that are not super contested at the moment, and it still comes out to being a very, very good 4-zone build. As for the routing, you're going to be starting in Hospital and then TPing to either Temple or Uptown. I personally prefer Uptown second because you're going to be getting only just a couple of materials before you go over to Temple. You're going to finish both your Feather Boots, Statue of Soteria, and your Quiver as well. From this point, you should be more than strong enough to TP all the way over to Beach to finish your full 6 items by finishing your Dobok, Motorcycle Helmet, and Sheath of Shah Jahan. This build is very strong, very flexible, and comes together very fast, and one of its biggest advantages is being off of the current meta locations that are School and Avenue. I would highly recommend this build. This is actually probably one of my favorite ones that I've touched so far. As for the items themselves, it should be pretty obvious why Feather Boots and Lace Quiver are both good for Luke, as attack speed is rather important. His W does quite a lot of damage, and you want to be autoing people as much as possible. The Sheath of Shah Jahan and the Motorcycle Helmet, they give you a lot of max HP that keeps you tanky and durable all throughout the game. Also, they both give you a little bit of attack power, which is pretty nice. He does have a lot of really good attack power scalings. Now, the spicy one is actually the Dragon Dobok. This piece gives you SP regen, it gives you attack power, and it gives you CDR, and of course, it gives you some attack range. These are all stats that match really well with Luke, and they also, well, just because the item can be built within the route, that makes it a pretty good piece. The second build we're going to be covering today is going to be this Tanky Butler Statue of Soteria version of Luke. This build's route is relatively similar to the one we just talked about, but instead of going to Temple, you're instead going to be stopping by Avenue. Your first one is going to be Avenue, you're going to be going to Uptown and then Hospital afterwards, and finishing on Beach. What differentiates this build from the one we just talked about is that it actually has a burnished Aegis as its arm piece. Now, Burnished Aegis is a fantastic arm piece for Luke because it gives him a ton of max HP, way more than Sheath of Shah Jahan. And honestly, Luke just wants to stay in the fight, getting as many autos in as possible because his W is a huge source of his damage. Now, as for the rest of your gear, you're going to be running a Butler suit on the chest piece, which gives you a good amount of attack power, movement speed, and lifesteal. Also, a motorcycle helmet to give you that little bit of extra max HP to help you stay in the fight as well. You're also going to be switching over to white rhinos instead of feather boots, and an Uchiwa. Now, here's what's so interesting about Uchiwa. Uchiwa provides a lot of flat amp for this build, and flat amp is actually one of the best stats on Luke because his W applies flat amp to all of his auto attacks, meaning that you're effectively using flat amp as a pseudo ENAD stat. Most ENAD accessories don't even give you close to as much ENAD as Uchiwa gives you flat amp, so as an effective ENAD replacement, Uchiwa is a fantastic piece of gear here as it gives you a ton of extra damage on your auto attacks, in addition to giving you lifesteal and some mana. Overall, this build is very strong. It hits all the notes that I want to hit with this character, has good max HP, has good attack power, has good durability, and auto attacking capabilities. This is an ideal Luke build, and I would highly recommend it. Now, the third build we're going to talk about is going to be a classic bat build. We're going to be talking about Bonk Luke. Bonk Luke is a derivative of Bonk Magnus, which is an auto attack mallet version of a bat character. Now, the point of this build is to build your mallet really quickly. It's to build some extra crit pieces and some attack speed and stick to your target very aggressively. You get most of your max HP through your Schrodinger's box and your motorcycle helmet. All in all, this build is actually quite old and has been tested extensively through Magnus gameplay. It's sort of the tried and true version of auto attack bat builds, so I can assure you that this build is actually quite good. As for your routing, you're going to be starting in Factory and moving over to Chapel. Here you're going to gather the rest of the items you need in Chapel and then TP up to Archery Range. At this point, you'll have your mallet, white rhinos, motorcycle helmet, and Schrodinger's box all finished within 3 zones. What this means for you is that you have a ton of max HP, as well as good movement speed and auto attacking capabilities within the first 3 zones. You're quite powerful at this point. You can farm the wolves here in Archery Range, or you can just continue to finish your build over in Alley, grabbing just the wetsuit and then TPing over to Uptown to finish the full thing. This build is both fast and consistent, and it's been around for so long that you know it is at least worth a good try. So enough with the simple builds, enough with the easy builds, it's time to talk about something a little bit more complicated. So farming Luke is a version of Luke that plays a lot like Nadine. The emphasis on this build is rushing your Statue of Soteria, which is your weapon, as well as your white rhinos, to just finish those within your first 3 zones and start farming animals to get random RNG pieces to finish the rest of your gear. After you go to Hotel and finish both your weapon and shoes, and farm as many wolves as you can, and potentially players as well, you'll be moving down to Beach. If you haven't gotten a ruby from wolves yet, you'll be getting a hammer and gemstone, as well as a steel chain to finish your sunset armor, as well as a chain coif. The reason why I say this build is more advanced is because there are 2 aspects of it that are not necessarily easy for new players. The emphasis on this build is being able to use anything you get off of animals, such as wolves or bears, in order to make different gear pretty much every game. It's all about being flexible, it's all about being able to read what materials you're given and figuring out what you can make with what you get. If you're not comfortable with adapting your build on the fly, if you're not comfortable with knowing what you can do with the stuff you get from animals, this is probably not the build for you. But that being said, if you want to just rush a weapon really fast and be power spiking very early, very flexible, and very adaptable, then this is a very interesting build, and honestly quite strong if you know how to do it. One little tip I'd like to give you is that if you do find blueprints or electronic parts, you could just go for a vital sign sensor or a radar instead of a cube watch. Also, if you find iron sheets, you could make a sheath and eventually turn that into a sheath of Shah Jahan if you find another ruby, or if you just get another ruby over here in Beach. Again, it's all about being very flexible and figuring out what you can do with what you get. So the 5th build we're going to talk about is this Tanky CDR version of Luke. One of the biggest advantages of this build is that you're going to be finishing your Statue of Soteria within just 2 zones. That's a 2-zone weapon where you're going to be very strong. After you finish that, you're also going to have that Uchiwa, which we've mentioned in previous builds is very good on Luke. This is a massive early power spike, and you should be using this to your advantage after you finish both of these 2 items to probably track down and kill pretty much anyone that's near you. Although if there are no nearby targets, you can instead move up to Archery Range, where you're going to be finishing your shoes. You're going to be going for white rhinos. After that, you can go to Hotel, finish up your tack-offs, and then finally Beach to get both your EOD suit and your Shah Jahan. At this point, you become very tanky, as the EOD and the Shah Jahan give you a ton of max HP between them, as well as a bunch of CDR between your EOD suit and your tack ops. Overall, this build is very well rounded, as you're getting attack speed between 3 pieces of gear, max HP between 3 pieces of gear. You're also getting some flat amp for your autos to hit just a little bit harder, and you do have that healing reduction as well. This build is a monster in the right hands, and if you can pull it off, you're very strong. One of the bigger advantages of this build also is that between Avenue and School, you're collecting the bulk of your build. You only need 2 pieces of gear from your other 3 zones, so you're getting pretty much everything you need to start off your build, your core, between these first 2 zones. Overall, this build is incredibly fast and it scales extremely well, and I would highly recommend it. Now, let's talk about the final build on this list. What you see before you is the best Luke build ever. Going into tonight, this is the build that I had labbed out in my spare time. This is the build that I thought was gonna be kinda nuts and completely slept on. The main emphasis of this build was taking the flat amp from the Spy Umbrella and using that as an auto attack tool, since your W does apply flat amp. And honestly, I mean this as not a joke, this build is actually very good. It's definitely unorthodox, it's definitely not what you'd expect, but I gotta say, put some respect on the best Luke build ever's name. It's actually quite viable. Maybe I'm putting this here as half of a joke, half of a serious thing, but seriously, if you're looking for something fun to test with, if you're looking for something fun to experiment with and see that Spy Umbrella could actually be a powerful auto-attacking weapon, by all means, please give this a try. Now, as for the items themselves, aside from the Spy Umbrella, EOD suit and Tac Ops are a match made in heaven. These are two pieces of gear that give you good defensive stats, as well as giving you 25% CDR between them. Additionally, you're gonna have a radar in this build, which means that you have good attack speed and a little bit of extra crit chance to potentially get some sweet hits in there. Also, with the feather boots and the Uchiwa, you have even more flat amp and attack speed to apply that flat amp as much as possible. As for the routing, your path is going to be Avenue, School, Archery, Beach, and then Hospital. You're going to be finishing your weapon between these three zones, and I know they are rather contested at the moment, but if you do manage to pull it off, you should be in pretty good shape. This build is definitely strange on paper. It definitely isn't what you'd expect out of a Luke build, but I gotta say, give it a shot. Please at least try it out once or twice. It is definitely worth your time. Now, let's talk about Luke's skilling order and evolution points. Luke is a very unique character who has a evolution point mechanic kinda similar to Heart, but in his case, he gets evolution points as he farms animals, players, and opens boxes around Lumia Island. He gets up to 3 evolution points total, but he has 4 possible options to put evolution points into, so it's sort of up to you which of your skills you want to neglect to put a point into. Honestly, in testing with Luke, his evolution points all seem relatively about the same in power level, so it's not exactly clear which one is distinctly better than the others. So my hierarchy for evolution points is actually W as your #1 priority in almost every situation. W gives you a lot of extra pressure by reducing the cooldown on your Q as you auto attack things with your W active. It makes sure that you have very good follow-up if they try to disengage after your first engagement. After that, between Q and E, honestly, both of them are relatively about the same in power level. The Q evolution makes it so you heal a little bit when you use your Q on somebody, while the E evolution, it gives you a slow when you E them. What that means is that if you want better dueling potential, if you're worried about your health while you're fighting, your Q evolution is a good pick, but if you're just trying to track people down, make sure they can't get away, better engagements in general, you're probably going to want the slow on the E to make sure that you have more CC, as Luke has very little CC in his kit. As for the R evolution, it just felt a little bit underwhelming in general, so I would put that at the bottom of my priority list. So to recap, my evolution priority is W over E equals Q, and then R, I would just skip it personally. As for Luke's skilling order, I would recommend W over Q over E over passive, and of course taking a point in your ultimate whenever possible. Your W is really the bread and butter of your damage, but it is possible that maxing Q is a good strategy as well, but for just high, consistent auto attack damage, I would recommend maxing out your W. So with all of that being said, let's check out an example game and see how Luke plays. Oh, we're online. Let's go. Just so you know, how is Luke so far? He's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. I believe I have a shitty spawn here. Ooh. Wait, that was the thing I needed to... Dude, we could... Whoa, there's just a car here. Holy shit, that's sick. That's actually dope. Yo, any ribbons? Ribbon check? Jesus. Gonna check the whole zone and not get a ribbon? I mean, I have to get a ribbon. Like, as much as I'd like to leave without it. Jesus. Oh, it's just for the Uchiwa. I forgot this build doesn't need a ribbon for the weapon. Whoops. That's fine. We got it. We move on. It's been so long since I played squad. Dude, Gobu, honestly, same. Honestly, same. And I miss it. I genuinely miss it so much. Are there... Ooh. Someone's got console, which is very concerning. Assume someone's already been through here. Dude, why can't I combine eggs and meat? Just get some... egg meat. Or chocolate and meat. guys? Is there any paper on this map? Anyone know? Okay. Kinda cute. The best Luke build ever is coming together. Yes, this is the first time I managed to actually play Spy Umbrella without there being a billion people griefing me in school. It's kind of nice, actually. Kinda nice. Oh. Okay, for a second I thought that wasn't gonna hit, and I was actually extremely confused. But then I started having a delayed hit. Yeah, the second Q activation just half the time doesn't do anything. It's if you're out of range? No, that's so dumb. That's actually so dumb. There's no way that that is the real reason. Tree still up? No. That is incredibly unintuitive, if that is in fact the truth. And not a good design. Because it just makes it feel like you just like got robbed of your damage for no apparent reason. I don't see why that's a thing. Okay, the best bat build, sorry, the best Luke build ever is currently online. Time to snowball out of control. Yo, this thing is kind of slapping. I'm kind of tanky too. I don't even think I want burn stages here. Honestly, I think I'm good with all these things. I'm gonna go to archery. Oh, wolves and hotel are up. Let's go there. It's a battle royale. Luke looks pretty clean. I mean, yeah. You could say that. Honestly, like, I still don't know if I like... I do like the slow. Both those options are very, like, lukewarm. So, I don't know. I think both are fine. Yo, it's time. Okay, so we need a hat here. Is bat a new weapon? No, it's been around forever. Only Magnus had it. How do you ping in this game? Alt for this, Alt for this. Oh, hold on. And you can also control click for that. Missed. No, okay. Thought she was gonna recommit there. Yo. What's up, Doc? Yo. How did I miss? I don't think I catch her here, quite honestly. Alright, where was my ping? Be careful, should be up in... it's about a minute and a half. Wait, Wick's up. Wick's an Avenue. This game is like pretty new. It's in early access. It hasn't even been out for... I mean, it was in alpha like a year ago, but it got into early access about, I don't know, a few months ago, 2 months ago. Dude, you can reactivate that, I think, like, way sooner than I'm expecting. She's still an Avenue. October was 4 months ago. I know, it's crazy. This is where we're at right now. Time is actually just like a complete illusion. It's flying past us like crazy. Alright, Wick, where are you at? Where are you at? Come on. Hey, there we go. That heal is quite nice, honestly. Ow. Yeah, Luke's got a pretty good Wick game. No lie. Dude, I'm kind of like out here playing Nadine right now. I have 113 stacks. That's crazy. There's actually so many stacks. His farm game is genuinely insane. It's almost Nadine tier. It actually might be better. Aside from like maybe bow Nadine, it might be actually faster than crossbow. Just straight up. I've been trying to make a Luke Nadine build. Like straight up, that was one of my big goals, was making a Luke Nadine build. And I just like couldn't come up with anything. Outside of the stuff that like kind of already exists and is pretty obvious. How do you compete with Luke's insane clear? He's got matched with the aspect final zone. Honestly, it's true. I guess he has to just hope that the Lukes aren't necessarily farming super hard. He doesn't really gain that much by hitting 14 though. Like, level 2 bat skill is not that crazy. Nice. Oh. Build a Monkey King bar? Ooh. Kinda can't. Probably should have got the stuff in pawn. Whoops. Oh. I'm trolling. Guys. Hmm. I come back and you're actually in top 2. Dude, don't sleep on the best Luke build ever. It's in the title. Like, of course it's gonna be good. It wouldn't. The title wouldn't lie to you, right? Whoops, that's not what I wanted to press, but it's fine. We'll do that. There you go.